You know, taxpayers want their hard-earned money put to good use. Well, tonight, 13 Investigates finds Indiana state agencies failing to pay their bills on time. The agencies have mounting overdue fees, costing you millions. Investigator Sandra Chapman shows you the top 3 offenders and why Governor Daniels is on the defensive.
Bills, bills, bills. Nobody likes them, but every 30 days they're due. We're supposed to settle up and pay on time. Just like you, state government is expected to pay its bills on time, too. But 13 Investigates has found a troubling practice: state agencies paying their bills late. As a result, Indiana taxpayers are paying millions of dollars in late fees, money that could be used to help Indiana families and save lives. We scoured through spending records for more than 100 state agencies and found paying late is a routine practice for more than a dozen of them. One of the biggest offenders, the Indiana Department of Transportation. INDOT is staring down the tracks as one of the worst states in the nation for railroad crossing crashes. 116 collisions last year, 10 people died, second only to Texas, a much bigger state. Bad news for Operation Lifesaver.
We really need to take this seriously.
INDOT says there isn't enough money to fix the significant backlog of 3,000 crossings statewide in need of better warning devices. Since 2008, the agency has been under a federal rail crossing safety improvement plan to make critical upgrades. 13 Investigates has learned over the last 2 years when INDOT said it didn't have enough money for crossing improvements, it paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in late fees for simply failing to pay its bills on time. Crossings like this one in Jamestown sit with no arms, no lights, and little warning.
I don't want nobody else to after the suffering.
James Gokenauer's tears are for Joan, his bride of 60 years. She's the sole survivor of a train crash at that Jamestown crossing last August. She suffered a traumatic brain injury. Her 2 friends were killed. It turns out the Jamestown crossing was on INDOT's list for improvements in 2010. That year, INDOT paid $340,000 in late fees, but neither INDOT nor Boone or Hendricks counties where it sits would put up the $250,000 for lights and gates. Gokenauer's daughter says no other family should have to go through this.
That doesn't seem like a whole lot of money when you consider all the lives that could be impacted.
In fiscal year 2010, state agencies paid more than $1 million for untimely payments. Last year, the amount nearly doubled. The 3 worst offenders? The Department of Child Services, with more than $500,000 in late fees. The Indiana Department of Transportation, with nearly $500,000 in late fees. And FSSA Medicaid, with more than $250,000 in late fees. The numbers aren't sitting well with Hoosiers.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in just paying late fees.
When you hear that, what do you think?
It's frustrating as a parent that has a child on the waiting list, and my child's been on the waiting list since 2008, and to know my child's probably going to be on that list for another 5, 6, 7 years even.
Jenny Rice is talking about her son Canyon. He's on the state's autism waiver waiting list for services. To help now, Jenny and other families receive $2,000 a year to cover 10 hours of specialized care a month for their special needs children, something insurance companies won't cover.
Raising a kid with a disability is rough, and parents need time to recharge.
In 2010, the state abruptly stopped paying. Last year, the funding was cut in half, forcing families like the Rices to go without, while Indiana's Family and Social Services pays more than $250,000 in late fees. FSSA and INDOT gave no comment about why they don't pay their bills on time. We asked the state auditor to tell us why this is happening. The auditor's office said, "We are declining your request for an on-camera interview. The governor's office can answer your questions regarding the individual agencies."
State agencies aren't necessarily spending the money in what might be considered a frugal way. What types of controls are in place to monitor that?
You must never recover a bad government.
We made an official interview request for Governor Daniels weeks in advance. He and his staff would not agree to talk, so we caught up with him after a State House event.
We found that state agencies are late paying their bills to the tune of
that's not
millions
mismanagement.
of dollars.
What mismanagement is paying too early. We probably have a smaller issue there than any state in the country. I gave an order to pay as promptly as possible, but not sooner.
While the governor has kept his office late fees down to $155 and the auditor to just 20 cents, sooner for many agencies translates to later.
They may be a few days late, in which case we pay interest, so no one is injured. But we have saved the taxpayers a lot of money by managing payments, payables, and specifically better than before.
So you're saying agencies that are, millions of dollars that are paying in these late interest payments are...
Have you looked at it as
Yes.
a percentage of the $14 billion a year? It is an infinitesimal percentage.
The governor says the millions in late fees are insignificant. But what about taxpayers on the losing end?
We're trying to make sure that we pay as close to the last appropriate day as possible.
What about the Gokenauers? They are suing the state, seeking up to $700,000, claiming negligence. They say $250,000 in upgrades at one of the state's dangerous railroad crossings could have made a world of difference. Now, we have reviewed the late fees for all 117 state agencies for the last 2 years and have provided our summary for your review on WTHR.com. Sandra Chapman, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.